This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
All right, welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Tyler West and Chris along with you on this Reaction Monday, 633 Main Street at Firehouse Subs. Going to be going until noon. Thank you once again to our guy Xavier Legette for hanging out on the Garnet Trust Hour. We'll have that interview up for you shortly on the 107.5 Game podcasting page. Great insight there from Xavier Legette. Obviously, talking about what happened on a Saturday night and those couple touchdowns he was able to bring in. But, man, just great insight from somebody that's going to be remembered for a very, very long time for what he's done in a South Carolina uniform.
Yeah, I think, Tyler, I've been covering the Gamecocks, maybe not as long as some, but since 2009, so coming up on 15 years. And I think his, progression into the type of player that he's become has maybe been the most fun to watch and to see on the other side because of what type of guy he is, like what type of kid he is, young man he is, and his work ethic and how he's just kind of beloved universally for just – doing things the right way. And we've heard so much about that publicly from, all his teammates, Spencer Rattler most notably, from his offensive coordinator, Dowell Loggins, from his head coach, Shane Beamer, and from the fans too. And, sometimes you get great players that come in and it's kind of, we were talking about Alshon Jeffrey earlier. I mean, Alshon, it took a few games, but you almost immediately got that greatness. Marcus Lattimore, you immediately got the greatness. I mean, one of his first, I think game number 2 of his college football career was 37 for 182 against Georgia. Sorry, Tyler. But
no, I remember.
You remember. Jadeveon Clowney. Other guys take longer, but, man, you don't – it's always wise to wait on guys that have the physical traits of somebody like X, but you maybe don't see this type of progression as much to where it's literally year 5 and a guy just breaks out. Not only has his most impactful season, but has one of the best seasons in college football, one of the best seasons in South Carolina football history. And, Tyler, you gave the list earlier. Some of the guys on that list, those are great players. Those are NFL players who had long careers. And for his name to be on that list, I think, is awesome. And it's a testament to his talent level and his work ethic.
Just to be on the same list as those guys we mentioned is special. Like that's get your name, get your picture on the room in the in the receiver room at the ops building.
Yeah,
like they need to add to the mural in there. I think next year, and I think when you leave a legacy like that, fans are gonna remember you, and because of this season, I mean he's now in the conversation when people say, well, hey, who are your top 10 South Carolina receivers of all time? Who are your top 5 in the last, in the modern era? He's now in the conversation, and, man, he's got a chance to add to it again on Saturday night. I wouldn't bet against him. The other thing that just was surprising to me, no nerves either, which to be able to walk into an arena in front of 80,000 people and not get nervous, and I believe him. He said it so matter-of-factly. So that's crazy to me. But I think NFL teams are going to fall in love with him too.
And they're going to hear, I mean, Beamer and Loggins have already talked a little bit about having some scouts in the building and being asked about, the team's top 2 prospects in Spencer and Zay. And I think it was Loggins that said the cool thing is that we can be completely honest about those guys. and the work ethics that they have and the returns that you get on them as players. And teams are absolutely going to love that. And they're also going to see that, this is a guy that's not only got the production, but he also has the traits, right? To where there's some guys in college where you say that's a really good college player, but maybe his game doesn't translate. Well, we just saw. This is a huge human being who can really run. He's got a great work ethic. Is coachable, and he can also play through injury and play hurt. How many times have we seen him kind of limping around or limping off the field, and then he's right back at it, catching passes?
Well, and Dow Loggins, who obviously spent nearly 2 decades in the NFL prior to coming to Arkansas and South Carolina, he knows what it takes to compete at that level. And I asked Exeter that during one of the breaks, things that Dow Loggins has told him about how he'll translate to the next level and the insight that he's been able to give him. And obviously, X has thrived well in this offense that he's brought to the table this season, and hopefully it will translate well to the next level as well, where he's going to be one of those higher round draft picks, somebody that coming into the season nobody was talking about, and Juice Wells was being talked about as maybe a top 10 wide receiver pick or something like that, but now Xavier Legette's jumped up on those boards, and very excited to see what he can do in his NFL career after the next couple of games at South Carolina, of course.
I'm excited to see what he runs, too, honestly. That was the Garnet Trust Hour. I don't know if Jeremy's listening, but if we can possibly get a Garnet Trust event to watch, I guess who all's racing? Him, Nick E.
He said just him and Nick E. because he's already beaten AB.
Harbor is invited.
Yeah, he's invited for the 40 only.
I got it. A Garnet Trust Olympics.
Okay.
Yes.
Like at the end of the season, we'll organize something like that, and definitely have the 40-yard dash.
Yeah, we need to make that happen. And he said 40 yards and 40 yards only, which I think is a smart move. But in all seriousness, I'll be very interested to see what he runs on the laser at the combine, because at his size, with his tape, he's already made himself quite a bit of money, but he's got a chance to at least keep the level he's probably at right now as far as draft projections, but possibly take another step up, I think.
And we obviously talk about what he does on the field and how he's going to be loved and remembered for that. But, sitting here talking to him for an hour, just a humble guy. Obviously comes from honest roots, comes from Mullen, South Carolina, playing in front of, 250 people on a crowded Friday night. And he's just somebody that a lot of people can understand and resonate with. And I'm just looking at our Firehouse Subs text line. It was blowing up that last hour, people talking about how much they love Xavier and finally getting to hear him talk a little bit, as opposed to maybe some of the press conferences where he doesn't want to open up as much. But, he's somebody that not just for on-the-field stuff, but the off-the-field stuff as well that people are just going to love and remember him for.
Yeah, I feel like he did open up a little bit, and I think when NFL teams sit down with him and start to get to know him a little bit and have him in one-on-one conversations, he'll open up and show them his personality a little bit as well, I think. So, that was fun. I'm glad we finally made it happen. I'm excited to see what he has in store for everybody on Saturday. Big game, obviously, Gamecocks taking on Clemson, and, I think he's excited for that as well. And continues to be, just consistently the dude for South Carolina. I saw the guys. Let's go back to my theme of today's show, or today's entire 3 hours, is our buddies at KSR. But I saw, and I wish I had this in front of me. Basically, I think they cut it off at 74 yards, and 74 yards receiving for Zabo, as we now know he is called. South Carolina is 0-4 when he has less than that. And that would mean they've only lost one game when they've only lost 2 games when he's had more than that.
And for most of the game on Saturday night, I think he only had about 3 catches for 31 yards prior to that final, or that drive that ended up scoring the touchdown there. So they did do a decent job keeping him in check for most of the game. But then when obviously the moment called for it, he was able to step up there at the end and get that touchdown.
He got the last laugh on that. And guys, can we talk real quick about the anatomy of that play? Like the fact that you have Spencer, first of all, goes to change the protection, or at least alert Nick G, realizes I have no time. A lot of times you see quarterbacks when they're in that situation and they start clapping, snap it, snap it, snap it. The ball doesn't get snapped, or there's a bad snap, or it changes the complete just timing of the play. They get the snap off. Our guy, DJ Braswell, freshman, who we all know freshman running backs, it's always about, can you pass protect?
Yep.
He gets across Spencer's face and gets to the spot, gets the block, and then for Spencer to just that was a veteran throw. If you look, Spencer's subtle shuffle to the right to give himself a lane and time without even being able to see Zay, and then deliver the football. I wish Zay said something just kind of offhand, I think, about, we rep that all the time, or we just rep that on Thursday. Like, we could do it with our eyes closed, basically, is what he was alluding to. Spencer is basically saying my eyes were closed. Like, I couldn't see because I'm getting hit.
It's truly the epitome of blanket X's down there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, but with the subtle, there are intricacies to it as well, which were just so impressive.
And just as importantly as that touchdown, let's go back to the 3rd and 15 earlier in that drive where they're backed up, and it looks like the drive's going to come to an end. He's able to find X on that. AB ends up kind of diverting the safeties a little bit on that, and that's just as important as that touchdown, because if you don't get that and that drive doesn't continue, and obviously that was, in the midst of South Carolina's offense kind of being in that lull up to that point, that was kind of the spark of what got the offense going again when he was able to get that 3rd and 15 conversion.
I was going to say, guys, I felt like South Carolina put themselves in some of those, for those entire 6 drives, it was just like a situation like that one time after another. And we've talked about that. This offense has really not been great at eliminating, when a negative play happens and they're behind the sticks, they already can't run the football. So they put a lot of pressure on themselves in those situations. But when they really, really needed it, they eliminated multiple negative yardage situations to go score on that drive. To that point, you can go back and look at several drives that were killed by usually penalties, basically.
Yeah. Well, this is why recruiting's so important. You had a 2nd and 26. You're down 14-10. You're in UK territory, but now you're backed up because you got an illegal block in the back that wiped out what was a 9-yard gain on 2nd and 11. Now you're 2nd and 26, and they call a little screen pass to Xavier Legette. He gained 17 yards, and then the next play is a 17-yard touchdown on the 3rd and 9. How about that? The mind-blowing numbers, Wes.
Yeah, those people that, get all crazy over
in the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that, numerology or something?
Numerology. Well, there's some right there. But, two back-to-back 17-yard plays by number 17. But those 2 plays were just I'm better than you plays. I think the first one, you just have a nice play design. I think that was that kind of fake to one side, throw back to the other side pass that we've seen Dow Loggins draw up. Xavier Legette did a really nice job. Offensive line got out, got a piece of some guys. Zay kind of held on to Nick Gargiulo and gained maybe 5 extra yards from what he could have gotten, and that got him into position. And then the play that y'all just broke down, we saw that's just a great quarterback making a great throw. It's a freshman stepping up who was a highly recruited freshman, and then Xavier Legette, and those guys just kind of combined and made a big play.
Absolutely. So once again, thank you to Xavier Legette for hanging out with us for today's edition of the Garnet Trust Hour. Again, we'll have that interview for you up shortly on the 107.5 The Game podcasting page if you missed any of it. But it is Reaction Monday. We'll continue to look back on what happened Saturday night between the Gamecocks and the Wildcats. Hear a little bit more from Coach Beamer. He's talked about a number of things, including how they used Lenora Sellers on Saturday night. We'll hear about that coming up. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on Reaction Monday, live at Firehouse Subs on 633 Main Street, going until noon here on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Get an inside look at Hollywood with Michael Rosenbaum.
Let's get into the fascinating, wonderful Bonnie Wright.
Oh, yeah. Ray Fiennes was the most chilling actor to work around.
He wasn't funny and making jokes.
No. A little bit, but in, like, Voldemort way.
Did you feel like he got very little direction? They let him do what he was just doing?
I'm sure he was probably the type of actor that would go kind of quietly and speak to the director rather than
What am I doing wrong? What do you want me to do?
Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, wherever you listen.
Presented by Firehouse Subs, broadcasting live at Firehouse Subs, 633 Main Street, right here on campus. Tyler, Wes, and Chris going with you until noon. It is Reaction Monday. We'll hear more from Coach Beamer from Saturday night in just a moment. But speaking of Gamecock Central and 107.5 game, some pretty cool stuff going on between the two as far as some ticket stuff, Chris.
Yeah, you can actually go to tickets.gamecockcentral.com, and there, Tyler, you can also register for free to win 2 free tickets to the upcoming Clemson game on Saturday, thanks to all of us, I guess I could say, but all of us here at 107.5 the game as well.
Absolutely. For sure. So excited about that. Looking back this past weekend, once again, obviously we talked about it so much coming into the game that South Carolina was going to have to get a little bit creative when it came to running the ball with both Juju McDowell out for the season with his collarbone injury from the Vanderbilt game, and Dakereon Joyner still dealing with that lower body injury and not being able to play this past weekend against Kentucky. As we kind of figured, though, they might mix in Lenora Sellers a little bit to alleviate some of that concern in the run game, and that's exactly what they did. Here's what Coach Beamer had to say about Lenoris and his expanded role on Saturday night.
Yeah, we knew we needed to be creative defense or offensively with only having 2 scholarship running backs tonight, and Mario's beat up and was going into this week. He's tough as heck, and knew we couldn't rely on him every time. And we got confidence in DJ, but DJ's a true freshman that hasn't played a ton. It's tough to put him in that position tonight. So we knew we needed to be creative. I mean, I knew at the end of the really knew going into the who we played last week, Vanderbilt game, that we were going to probably need that Lenoris package down the stretch, and after Juju got hurt, and we put Lenoris in the game at the end of the game last week, and that freaking touchdown, he was supposed to hand it off, and then it was actually an RPO where Spencer would throw the ball to the flat, but Lenoris looks to run. So we had him in the game to finish the game, just hand it off because we really didn't want to put that on tape. And next thing I know, he pulls it and runs for a 40-yard touchdown or whatever. So I remember saying last week at the Vanderbilt game, I'm like, you kidding me? That was on tape. So that he credit him. I mean, that's a good defense. He came in there, but we needed to be creative tonight. So we used, Xavier Legette some at running back. We had Josh Simon in the backfield some. We used Lenoris at quarterback, and really it's just trying to get our best players on the field and give Kentucky something to prepare for. And Lenoris did a good job, but not good enough. When 33 rushes for 50 yards is it's tough sledding, and they're a good defense. Don't get me wrong, but we got to continue to find ways to be better there.
And as Beamer mentioned there, it was a tough night running for the team overall, 33 carries for 50 yards and no touchdowns. But again, Lenora Sellers was asked to do a little bit more and got out there and was able to make a couple plays. And it will be interesting to see how they decide to use him in these hopefully next couple of games as we wrap up the season.
Yeah, guy sitting behind me actually is from Chris's neck of the woods, and he about had to down in front of me when I stood up at the game and started throwing my hands up, praising the heavens when I finally saw the Lenora Sellers package.
The short yardage package.
That we've been wanting to see and hoping to see all year long. It was an interesting wrinkle how they did it. Mm-hmm. Keeping Rattler on the field, essentially having Rattler – as a running back. They also motioned him out of the backfield. And so it was interesting that they did it like that to keep the threat of 7 on the field, I guess. Like, you and I guess we talked about on the show how, the one thing about doing it by actually bringing in another quarterback is that you allow the defense to sub and match you. And so I do wonder what else will they do off of this same personnel package, because you're sitting there. Yeah, obviously they're trying to win the game, but you have 2 quarterbacks on the field because everybody – because there was one where they motioned Rattler out, and you're like, all right, is this the double pass? Like, you know you're putting that threat in opponents' minds. So, I don't know.
There's a lot more you can do here.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Well, and another, I'm just saying decent prediction day, I think, Wes, for me. I didn't nail the score. I did get the 3-point margin right. And I also said, I think, 5 or more carries for LaNorris. Didn't he have 5? First time all year I've gotten anything right.
Hold on,
point,
I got the
probably
stats. He actually only had 2 carries.
2 carries, okay. 5 snaps.
Yeah, 5 snaps,
5
2
snaps,
carries.
yes. But to your point, Wes, seriously, I mean, there is a lot more you can do here. And I've got to think we're going to see this more against Clemson, right? Clemson's defensive front, their front 6, front 7, really good. I mean, Kentucky's got some guys that are really good at the linebacker position. Deion Walker, their nose guard, was he wrecked shop. Yeah, I mean, he
is exactly what I was about to say.
He wrecked some things up front, but you look at Clemson. I think even more so at the linebacker position with Jeremiah Trotter, Barrett Carter. They got some guys that can really hurt you up there, and so I think having Sellers out there in those short yardage, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 packages down near the red zone. This isn't just a one-trick pony though at quarterback. Like LaNorris Sellers is a guy that can throw the football. He can make decisions, and so. Yes, he's a freshman, but I think the staff probably knows that they can trust him. They know that he can improvise, in situations. And so if
maybe more than they want,
improvise a little bit more than they want. So they might have to rein him in a little bit situationally, against a team like Clemson. But I've got to think we're going to see more and probably some more wrinkles off of that package as well.
Did y'all catch Josh Simon in the backfield?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
What was the?
I can't remember what he did. If it was a lot of people have asked about the personal protector thing, like we saw with Nate Atkins, last season that they put in for when they do that, starting the Florida game last year.
Is that what they were using him as?
I don't remember. I've not gone back and completed a rewatch yet. I didn't see Josh a lot in the backfield, but a lot of people have asked about that. Like, hey, will we see some of that given some of the protection issues? My answer has always been, well, if there's another Nate Adkins on the roster, then go for it, right? But, Simon and Trey Knox both more pass-catching tight ends, like you lean that way. But we did see that some. Beamer pointed out we saw X in the backfield. Typically they've been doing that more for passing game matchups, like how to count the receivers, so to speak. But he did see, Wes, you pointed out, some carries against Kentucky, and we saw Simon too. But I didn't really catch exactly how he was used.
If it was when he was out there, it had to have only been a handful of plays because I don't recall seeing that and watching the game back last night. And he obviously didn't end up, taking any handoffs. But as we talked about, we knew Longins was going to have to get very creative and between a combination of, using somebody like X in the run game. Miriam Brown takes some sweeps as well. Like, had to get creative with it, and obviously LaNorris Sellers is going to be a big key to the running game with this offense, next year more likely than not. And good to see him, getting the opportunity to get some reps in and hopefully build some of that confidence going into next year.
Yeah, and I just look. So Simon, according to PFF, 3 snaps in the backfield. So I don't remember seeing it a lot. They moved him around a lot. 20 in line, which is kind of your more traditional tight end, 3 in the backfield, 4 times in the slot, and 5 out wide. So they moved Josh, around a good bit in this game.
Yep. They're moving X all over the place.
He's all over
too.
the place, yeah.
But if he's in the backfield, it ain't to be personal protector. Like they've done some really good things with him throughout the year, I feel like, and it was kind of fun just watching because obviously this is radio, so y'all listening can't see it, but I've got the iPad playing the game here, and every now and then Xavier's eyes would dart over to him making a play on here, and I would say a very underrated play in this game, and maybe we mentioned it earlier, maybe we didn't, but on the same drive, the 3rd and 15 dig route completion from Rattler to X was another situation where this offense kind of had gotten behind the chains and were able to convert.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously plenty more to react to from this game on Saturday, and we'll continue that as the week goes along as we get you set for Clemson as well. But also the men's basketball team was in action over the weekend out there in Arizona, took on DePaul on Friday night and then took on Grand Canyon last night, ended up picking up victories in both those games. We'll hear from Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central coming up, recapping that as we are broadcasting live at Firehouse Subs, 633 Main Street, going until noon. We got some tickets to give away, got some basketball tickets and a pair of Clemson tickets. You got to work for it, though. You got to do something a little bit crazy to get those Clemson tickets, according to our guy Josh. We're not just going to hand them over to you, but if you can get here before noon, you can attempt to get those Clemson tickets at least, as it is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, going until noon on a Reaction Monday here on the game.
We'll wrap it up. Now he gives it to Jacoby Wright. Wright will dribble out of trouble, and you can put Spurs on this one. The Gamecocks get to 5-0 as they defeat Grand Canyon here, 75-68. A hard-fought contest, great shooting, and in the second half, a very much improved effort in terms of taking care of the basketball and some gritty play against a very physical team as well.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris live out at Firehouse Subs, 633 Main Street, going until noon. Again, we got some basketball tickets, some Clemson tickets to give away if you can get here in the next 25 minutes or so. Speaking of basketball, time to talk a little bit of basketball. That was a call last night. Derek Scott on the Gamecocks Radio Network as the Gamecocks picked up the 75-68 victory over Grand Canyon in the Arizona tip-off tournament to take that tournament title out there in the Mountain Time Zone there to improve to 5-0 on the season. The first time they've been 5-0 to start a season since that 2016-2017 campaign, which of course led to a Final Four appearance. Now, as we bring in Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central to talk a little bit of basketball, I don't know if this team's going to go that far, but certainly nice to be starting off 5-0 and for what's been a pretty fun season so far.
Yeah, you heard a lot of references on the broadcast these last few days about how eerily similar the situation is, because they were playing out in Glendale, which is right near Phoenix, and then 5-0 for the first time since 2016-17. So that was a pretty good year. Not sure if they'll get that far, but hey, right now you got to be happy with this team. They're 5-0 and really looking like a good basketball team.
Hey, Jack, how excited were you yesterday that it was a normal tip-off time instead of a midnight-ish tip-off time?
Dude, I was – so Friday night, I had went out with one of my old college buddies to hang out for a little bit. And then
that was your first mistake.
Yeah, I got to go back. I got to go cover a game. So I'll see you later. But, yeah, it didn't start till around midnight. And then I don't think I hit the publish button till I think exactly like 2:12 in the morning. So thank God South Carolina football did not play till 7:30 the next night, because otherwise I would have just been a hot mess if it were a noon kickoff.
Yeah, and so in all seriousness, man, as far as on the court, the fact that I was just impressed that South Carolina, a team that obviously relies very much on their shooting ability, they went out there and despite having this midnight tip-off, despite travel, all these little things that you could just use as an excuse if they did not play well, they went out there and just did their thing, man. I thought seemed like started both games. I'll be completely honest. I didn't stay up and watch the one on Friday, but I did watch the one last night. Just looked dialed in early on and just went out there and took care of business. That had to be a great sign for Lamont Paris. But what did you think about the fact that they didn't really let any of those external factors affect them in these two ball games?
Yeah, they played. Like you said, Wes, they played really strongly right away in that first game. Like I think they had gotten into Arizona maybe a day or two before, so they had a little bit of time to acclimate themselves to the area and the time difference and all that. But at the same time, when you're at a really late night tip-off, it can mentally affect you, I think. But South Carolina really didn't let it happen against DePaul. They were shooting the ball well early, playing pretty good defense. They looked a little sluggish, I'll say, in the second half of that game. But they still managed to win. And then yesterday, I think they just looked really well. I don't think the time difference or anything or jet lag, whatever it might be, I don't think it really affected them at all. Because you got to remember, they led for, I want to say maybe like 35 minutes of that game. Like, I can't remember exactly the right amount or how long they led. But, I mean, Grand Canyon, when they had a lead, they were only up by 1, and then South Carolina got right back in front. So credit to Lamont and his staff for getting this group ready to go. And I'm telling you, man, they had a really good tournament, all things considered.
Jack, Chris here. So I don't know if you've caught on to this bit yet, but I typically turn my segments talking basketball here on the GC Takeover Hour into Miles Studi talk. I've just
Miles
been
Studi fan club
Miles
president.
Studi fan club. It started when I saw Vanderbilt play here in Columbia last year. Miles didn't have a great game, but just watching him, I'm like, man, that's a good player right there. And I think he's really seemed to flourish. Came to South Carolina so that he could get more of an opportunity to kind of, just unlock his game offensively. What did you see from him specifically last night? Because he seemed to make a pretty big impact to me.
He did, and I'll kind of spin your question there a little bit, Chris, because it's not just him. It's also the rest of the transfers in this entire team that plays together as one unit. Stewie's a big part of that. Don't get me wrong. He shoots the ball really well. Honestly, he's probably like one of the more efficient shooters, if not the most efficient shooter on this team. But when you have him combine that with B.J. Mack, who had his best game of the season last night, offensively, just 27 points, using his size to really get down the paint and make plays, and then he can also shoot the ball well. And then Jacoby Wright, Michi Johnson. It was such a team effort this weekend. I don't think you would have seen that from last year's squad because it was just a lot of individual play and all that sort of stuff, in my opinion. But this year they're playing as a group. No egos or anything. They're just playing ball, and I mean, it's showing on the court right now. They're 5-0 for a reason, and that chemistry they have is just really strong. And like I said, Studi is a huge part of it.
Again, talking to Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central. Jack, about 2 more minutes here. Now they got about 8 days off before they get into their next game against Notre Dame in the ACC SEC Challenge. Of course, being 5-0 is exactly where they wanted to be to start the season, but areas of improvement, what can Lamont Paris and company work on over the course of this next week for the next game?
I think, 2 things I would have said after Friday's game. They kind of fixed it up on Sunday, was free throw shooting and turnovers. I mean, when they faced DePaul on Friday, I think they went like 57% at the free throw line, which is really not good enough, considering how many fouls were being called. You had the game in the bag if you hit if you turn those free throws. You cut it in half and you hit more of them. And then just the turnovers. I mean, 17 on Friday was not good, but you fixed those both on Sunday because I think South Carolina went 12-14 at the line on Sunday against Grand Canyon, and then they had 10 turnovers in the game. But most of those came in the first half. So those would be the 2 biggest things I would work on, and then just continuing to try to spread the floor more. I mean, we know there's so many shooters on this team. Some guys are going to have an off night. Friday was kind of a good example because Michi Johnson and I think Zach Davis were the 2 guys to only have double digits. Everyone else kind of struggled a little bit. I mean, B.J. Mack had maybe like 4 points. Some other guys didn't even get that high in point totals. So continue to spread the floor, spread the shots, and try to get everyone going because when this team is on, they're dangerous. And, look out for them in a week. I think they're going to be really fired up to play in that SEC-ACC Challenge game.
Well, and we look forward to seeing how they respond after that little bit of a break and taking on Notre Dame next Tuesday in the SEC-ACC Challenge. Jack, thanks so much for a couple minutes of your time. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Again, Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central giving us a little bit of insight into men's basketball. Women's team actually in action tonight, taking on South Dakota State out at Colonial Life Arena. We'll come back and wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, live out at Firehouse Subs, 633 Main Street. I believe our guy Larry Chain are going to slide in with us for a few minutes to wrap up today's edition of the show on this Reaction Monday here on the Game and the Game app. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse.
Half redneck, half posh. 100% fun. Trey Crowder and Corey Ryan Forrester try and learn fancy culture in putting on airs.
The host of the Medium Popcorn Podcast, Brandon Collins and Justin Brown.
Okay, so Paddington 2 had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes
As
for
it
years.
should. You guys ruined that?
Justin came in and like took it down like 2 points because of his rating. That's the time we started getting death threats.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. People worship that movie.
Putting on airs. The podcast is on YouTube and wherever you listen.
Subs broadcasting live at Firehouse Subs, 633 Main Street, right here in the heart of campus in Columbia. A couple more minutes along with you. We've been giving away tickets. We've had amazing Firehouse Subs. It's always fun when we're out here at a Firehouse Subs location. Even more fun when our guy Larry Chandler gets to jump on with us. Larry, you've been out here with us all morning. Got to hang out with Xavier Legette a little bit in the last hour. It's been a fun day so far.
Oh, definitely a fun day. Got to talk to him a little while, and it's always good to see him.
Absolutely.
So,
I think he's going to go off on Clemson, Larry. I'm just going to
I hope
make
so.
that prediction.
I'm not going to tell you what it guaranteed me, but I got to keep it on the low side in case I think he's excited for that game. He's ready to play it. So I think he's going to have a great game, like you said.
And you'll be in the stands.
Yes.
You'll be in Williams-Brice Stadium
100%
on Saturday. That'll
Hopefully,
be
he won't be able to talk on Sunday. From cheering the Gamecocks on. So
probably not. I've sat beside you for some games. You do some cheering. There's no doubt about it.
Well, that's I was talking about it, students. When I was a student here, if you could talk on Sunday, there was a problem.
You didn't do your job.
You didn't do your job. So I'm not calling the students out. Don't get me wrong, but I think students should have a goal of not being able to talk on Sunday.
Okay.
After the game.
And that was you.
Yeah, that was us.
You never left early, I'm sure.
No.
Did you go? Now, did you do like a lot of the students did on Saturday? They migrated down and wished Kentucky by.
Well, we had.
good trip home.
I guess for my sophomore year on in fraternity, we had certain seats we'd have. That was back over on the side where the visiting team sits now. That was the students were over there, and so we had set seats we could get. We had. And they would rotate how good of seats, and sometimes you're at the very bottom, sometimes you're up. But so we got there, and so we didn't do that. To answer your question, so
you yelled at. They could probably still hear you though from where you were.
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh, without a doubt. So
do you have a definitive favorite moment from the South Carolina Clemson rivalry?
Well, I wasn't here. I think my favorite as a kid. I say a kid. I was probably 15. Was when Jeff Grants went off. We went off on him here and scored every time we had the ball. I think that's always going to be one of the favorite games. And, of course, then during the Spurrier time, I remember one game, it was 12 o'clock. I was in a moment where I just felt really good. And I got in there really early to the game. We were playing, and Clemson was favored by a lot. And what's his name, ran the kickoff.
Spiller.
Yeah, and I thought, oh Lord, here we
Beaver
go.
was talking about that yesterday.
And then he did it, and I'm like, okay, stay calm, and then of course we just destroyed him after that. And so anytime we played during the Jadavian and that Ingram's time where we pretty much owned them, any quarterback came in there. But so there's a couple of them that I remember for sure that stand out. So.
What do y'all think was more special? It's probably an easy answer. It's probably the 5 in a row. Is it the 5 in a row, or is it – I feel like last year after not beating Clemson for so long and listening to the Gamecock fans that I'm really tight with, like there was a stretch there where you're just like, is this Clemson sort of roll that they're on, not just against South Carolina, just in general, is it ever going to slow down?
Right.
Like it felt like they just had all the momentum in the world to go out there and beat them last year. After being down early, you have a pick six, an interception in the end zone, but Spencer just keeps going, keeps firing away. To me, that's almost as special as beating them 5 years in a row.
Yeah, without a doubt. When we were down, and I was thinking, stay positive, and it's hard for me sometimes. I think, here we go. After that many years, and then they just chipped away. It's just like, man, watch it. Here we are. We're back in it, and then pull out the win. It was exciting to beat, and especially to beat them up there. And I guess since 2015, that was only the second time, if I'm not.
They had won.
Pittsburgh beat them, and then we beat them.
Yeah,
I think,
40 straight games.
40 straight games there, and anytime we can beat them, it's awesome. I don't care where we play them at. So I just want to beat them. So
Obviously, heading into the month of November, sitting at 2-6, it was looking a little bit bleak for the Gamecocks. But they put together these 3 wins in a row to give them the opportunity to still get that bowl eligibility this weekend coming up against Clemson. What's been your take on what you've seen over these past 3 weeks?
I think it's just the what I'm impressed about, and I love Coach Beamer. I think the positivity. A lot of teams would have just, I think at 2-6 would have said, maybe I shouldn't use the word folded, call it in, but it's very impressive, and it says a lot about his leadership and the coaching staff and the players to stay together and say, hey, we still got something to play for. We have this many games to play, and we're at home, and just keep playing and grinding it out. And they've gotten better and better, in my opinion. The defense has gotten better. That was impressive Saturday night. Then the week before, Vanderbilt game, they started really clicking. They're playing hard. I mean, that just that says a lot, in my opinion. And as a fan, it's really impressed with it. So.
Larry, Thanksgiving on Thursday. We're staring at the Thanksgiving turkey sub promo right there. I've already had three of them today. What can you tell the listeners out there about y'all's new limited time only sub?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a great. We only have it for I think 5 or 6 weeks over time, but it's been a very popular sub. We sell a lot every day, and plenty of time for everybody to come by and grab one. I'm not a big cranberry person, but I'll tell you that cranberry spread on there with that dressing is off the chart. It's one of my all-time favorite LTOs that we've ever had. So
absolutely. No, Chris and I were saying the same thing. Not big cranberry guys, but that was the perfect balance on that sandwich. And like I said, like Wes said, it was delicious. So that'll do it actually for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Larry, thank you so much for letting us hang out at another one of your Firehouse Subs locations today.
Always a pleasure to have y'all. Y'all can come every day if you like. So we appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
I might go broke though with y'all eating.
Reaction Monday rolls along with the halftime show up next here on the game.
All right, guys, I'll tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. They can take your home and make it even smarter. They specialize in smart home installation services right here in the Midlands. If you want some examples of some passwords, you may say, well, Chris, what does that mean? What exactly can Integrated Media do for me? You can go to their website, integratedmediainc.com. Several options for you there. Click on their gallery. You can see some things that they've done in the past. You can also check out their Instagram and Facebook pages. That's Integrated Media Columbia. They can do everything from mounting a television for you, hiding all those ugly wires so that they're not in the way and things look great. They can do that. They can also do a complete smart home solution. Weather's changing. If you want to be outdoors next to the fire pit season, they can make sure that you have an outstanding setup there as well. IntegratedMediaInc.com. Our friends Michael and Nathan can be reached at 803-948-8327. That's Integrated Media. It's still your home. It's just smarter.
Former Navy SEAL Sean Ryan shares real stories from real people from all walks of life on The Sean Ryan Show.
Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett.
Where do the majority of UAP sightings happen?
Yeah, military installations, but I couch that. I mean, if they're going to fly here and check something out, they're going to see where our best and brightest are, I would assume. They asked me about seeing any UFOs in Washington, D.C., and I said, no. I said, there's no intelligent life around here.
The Sean Ryan Show on YouTube or wherever you listen.